I'd like to thank the India Foundation for organizing this excellent conference on leadership in the 21st century. And indeed, over the last 2 days, we have heard about leadership in many different areas of life. And today, we're going to talk about global leadership. I think the first thing about leadership is a belief in yourself. Do you believe in what you're doing? Are you convinced about yourself? Or are you doing something for the wrong reasons? Are you looking for leadership because you want power? What is the relationship between power and leadership? This is a very important thought, and I think that if we recognize that leadership has to come about a belief in your own ideas and your belief in your power to lead because of your ideas. Leadership has to be first and foremost a thought leadership. And then we have to understand that yes, you do need some power, but leadership is the wise use of power. The misuse of power is dictatorship. Leadership is the wise use of power, and which leaders become great? Not because they have more power than the others, but those leaders who are able to empower others. So leadership must lead to empowerment. Leadership must be based in self-belief. And leadership must realize that there has to be a very wise use of power. Now, if we recognize these dimensions of leadership, then we come to the next stage. And that is that there is a very strong intertwining between national leadership and global leadership. And we have to recognize that, particularly in this globalized world. If we call the globalized world as one giant village, then we have to recognize that there is a very strong intertwining between your national objectives and how you can achieve them through the use for your own benefit of the globalized world. And anything you want, whether you want looking at development, whether you're looking at Make in India, whether you're looking at Swachh Bharat Abhiyan or Digital India or security requirements of your country, there is a national dimension, what you have to do within your country, but it is intertwined with the international dimension, whether it is technology, whether it is medical practices that you need to import from abroad, whether it is foreign direct investment. This intertwining is essential to recognize. So in a sense, when we are talking of global leadership, we are talking of basing it on national leadership. Global leadership does not exist in a vacuum. It is based on national leadership. It is based on having the reality of what you want within India for yourself and for your people and translating that through the global mind. The second is a seamlessness between the two. Sometimes there is no boundary between national leadership and global leadership because you are going to achieve your national objectives through the power play of global leadership. And I think if we recognize these two, then we have to realize that the first thing you need for global leadership is a clear national vision. What is it that you want? What is the brand India that you're looking for? When you're clear about that and the world recognizes how clear you are and how you are encouraging good governance within the country to achieve your national objectives, then the leadership comes to you globally immediately. If you just see that if you have economic reforms and you have the ease of doing business, you have jumped 30 places in that, well, then people say, yes, this is a country worth investing in, and they will come to it. If you have transparent markets, if you have open and strong judiciary, people will come to you for doing that. And this is important, therefore, to build up how we have done it. Now, if we look at the effort, how are we seeking global leadership? I fully believe in what Shakti ji said just now, that there is a certain lack of self-belief. We doubt ourselves. If somebody says there's inequality, then we say, oh yes, there's inequality, we can't be a global leader. I remember in 2013, after about 9 years of the previous government, there was an article in the Foreign Affairs magazine, and the title of that article said it all. India's feeble foreign policy, a would-be great power, resists its own rise. We are a natural leader of the world because of our size, because of our people, because of our ancient heritage. Our civilizational heritage is so strong that if we just believe in the plurality and the strength and the depth and the ancientness of our heritage, we will immediately come to know what it is to be a global leader. But if you doubt it, if you're going to debate it, that did we at all have a civilization? Oh no, maybe we didn't. Were we ever a nation? I mean, is there an idea of India? We are doubting things which have existed for millennia. And then if you're going to be imbued with this self-doubt in everything you do, you're not going to be recognized by our own people, leave alone by the rest of the world. But today, I think we have built a robust foreign policy. We have built a robust foreign policy because we have based it on the first premise, looking within. We have looked within the country, we have decided what we want for our nation, an inclusive growth, equal growth, and we're going to see how we interact with the world to get it. So the first step, looking within, after you've decided what you want, look around you, your neighborhood. Your neighborhood has to be the first dimension of your global leadership. Because unless your neighbors, if you're in the mohalla, if you don't have friendship with your neighbors, then how can you be a leader beyond that? So the first importance is your mohalla. There will be differences. As you know, in every mohalla, there are differences. There are quarrels for leadership. There are squabbles. This is my wall, that is your wall, this is my road, that is your side. All that is there. But you have to overcome it in a spirit of friendship, in a spirit of understanding that you need each other. The one cannot grow without the other. India's economic growth will be unreal if we cannot take our neighbors along as part of this economic growth. So a robust neighborhood policy is the first requirement. I think the first step was laid, but there is a lot more implementation to be done. After we have looked around, we look beyond. So then we had a very strong Act East policy. We've had this very vital BRICS partnership, and last year we had the BRICS and the BIMSTEC coming together. So the Act East countries coming together with BIMSTEC and BRICS and having a summit. We've had the RIC summit. We've had the Quad. We've had the meetings that we need to build up our, let me take a cup. We've had the Quad, which is a very important dimension of your national and global leadership, is security. What are the security dimensions that you have culled for yourself in this national and global leadership? Now, security dimension has a internal dimension, your defense, your law and order, your internal cohesiveness, bringing the unity in the diversity, that is very vital. But then you have an international dimension, looking after your borders, talking to your neighbors about it. And so we've had a lot of other aspects of this, which is including the Quad and other relations. Building alliances for realizing your objectives is vital. And I think this is an important aspect that India has been able to do in the last 3-4 years, is building these alliances. Now let us see what happened, for example, in the area of climate change. India's naturally recognized leadership in the area of climate change. In 2015, when Prime Minister Modi went and spoke at the Paris meeting, it was a very important speech. Not that there was a continuity in the speech, because we followed the policy guidelines laid down, the CBDR, the common but differentiated responsibilities, the role of adaptation and mitigation strategies, the need for the developed countries to realize the damage that they have done. But we also couched the climate change debate in the debate of India's civilizational heritage. That through the Atharva Ved, through the Rig Ved, what we are talking about is the partnership between man and nature. We are not talking of the superiority of man over nature. Nature does not exist for man. Man cannot exist without nature. This recognition and this statement to the world, this is what has given us a dimension of global leadership in climate change, which is based solidly on our national dimension and belief in this. Another very strong aspect of recognition of India's leadership, we saw just a few weeks ago in the elections to the ICJ, International Court of Justice, when Justice Dalveer Bhandari was re-elected for a second 9-year term. That was a very difficult fight, because there were 11 rounds of balloting. It became a fight of the 5 Security Council members. UK, the other candidate, was part of the Security Council, and the General Assembly, which has the vast majority of numbers. But we saw how gradually, with every round of balloting, India's political support increased, and the countries realized the value of having a country like India on the ICJ. And in the end, after the 11th round of balloting, the UK candidate withdrew. And India was elected, and it has been a tremendously, we have not realized it yet ourselves, we have not debated it enough, but it has signified a sea change in India's recognition on the world stage. We have also simultaneously had a very good success of Soumya Swaminathan as Deputy Director General of WHO, of Neeru Chadda joining ITLOS, the International Tribunal on Law of the Sea. So this is brought up a thought that we have credibility. We have proved our credibility, that we are basing our claim for global leadership on a very strong and national credible leadership. We have commitment. We have shown that we have the commitment to carry out what we do. And the third C of global leadership is culture. And this brings me to my point that what we need to strengthen India's global leadership into an irreversible factor, it is the focus on our soft power projection. Soft power is a very, very big and enormous dimension. It includes civilizational heritage, traditional knowledge, language, literature, philosophies, including religion, contemporary lifestyle, and of course this whole dimension of social media through the internet in this very highly communicative and wired up world. Now, this projection of soft power is something that has to be built in to your national leadership and the global leadership, because you have to project the soft power to your own people as well. We are a civilizational country, a civilizational heritage. We have to project it to our own people and then to the rest of the world. It has to be recognized that soft power projection is a strategic asset of India's foreign policy. And unless you recognize this as a strategic asset of your foreign policy, you are not going to get anywhere. In today's debate in the world about America and Donald Trump and whether they can still be a global leader or not, this dimension of America's soft power hold over the world is being debated as the one thing that will see them through. So they're saying that, it doesn't matter maybe now whether you're their leader for the next few years or not, but this soft power dimension combined with their military might is going to see them through. In 1946, E.H. Carr, the historian Edward Hallett Carr, said that there are three kinds of power: economic power, military power, and power over opinion. At that time, in 1946, opinion was merely seen or largely seen as the opinion of world leaders. And you thought if you convinced the leader, you convinced the rest of the people. Today, it's completely changed. Opinion today is public opinion, how people perceive you. Social, internet, Twitter, SMSs, how the youngsters perceive you, how young professionals, young students, academicians, what do they think of you? That is your constituency, that is the constituency you have to convince, and they want to be convinced. Just that one declaration of International Day of Yoga has brought India so much of accolades and interest in yoga and Ayurveda. And everywhere you go, every mission you go to, you'll see there may be 30 or 40 private yoga schools or 100 private yoga schools, but they want to come to the Indian Embassy yoga classes because they think that is the real thing. That is authentic, and if they come and listen to the yoga teacher, yoga master, they will really be able to understand the spiritual and well-being aspect of yoga as well as its physical dimensions as well. So I think that this aspect of soft power projection is something that we have to realize, have to really understand and see whether we can make this a strategic asset of our foreign policy, as important as your economic aspect, as your military aspect, and as your...
Could I request you to now start?
Yes, security aspect. The other issue on which I would say that we would look for global leadership, we must take global leadership on gender issues. Gender issues are vital. This is not a human rights aspect. This is a development issue. I think that we don't realize, in fact in 2015 there was a McKinsey Global Institute report on the power of global gender parity, which said that you cannot have economic development unless you have the development of women. Until women obtain their rights, women are empowered, women have the right to play their role in society equal with others and then not the subject of gender-based violence, only then you can have economic development. It's not that economic development will bring gender parity, it's the other way around. Go for gender parity, you will get economic development. You will bring women into the workforce, into the organized workforce, and that is where you will get that. In this note, before I conclude, I would like to mention two aspects which are linked both to global leadership, national leadership, and to gender parity: health and education. India can grow at 10%, but if India has the world's largest number of malnutritioned women and children, it is indeed a very sad aspect. You have to go for that. You have to visibly overcome that. Make women the center of that effort. Make women-centric solutions. Women have to be the source of the solution because they are the problem. They are the ones who are suffering from malnutrition. And in education, it's the same. Teach gender respect through education. Make your education such that you believe in yourselves, that you believe in your civilizational heritage, you believe in your unity and diversity. So I think that before I would end, I would like to say that if we don't, these two aspects, health and education, are vital so that we can benefit from what we describe as the demographic dividend. We can benefit from the demographic dividend only if we have people who are employable, people who have the skills to be employed, not just who may be graduates. If people don't have the health, if they are malnutrition till the age of 2, they can never play their full role mentally and physically in society. So I think this interaction, if we don't want the demographic dividend to turn into a demographic nightmare, and I think this is the one caution that I would say in our quest for global leadership, we have to recognize gender, health, education. We have everything it takes, and I hope that in the coming years and decades, we'll be able to play our role fully and acquire the seat at the global high table that is, by every count, ours. Thank you.